Hello and good evening. Welcome along to Business Today. I'm Joram Ssonko with Winnie Buyinza Nakauchi on Sign Language. It is the 27th day of March 2023 and we are getting started with more business this evening. But first, let's have a look at our top stories.
In Business Today, African Tax Administration Forum plus regional agencies work out legal framework on tax claims recovery, 1.3 billion shillings locally recovered. Civil society advocacy group, legislators war over public debt, budget cuts advised to provide for debt servicing. UNBS, Africa Standardization Organization, call for harmonized standards to facilitate intra-trade as regional market growth is anticipated.
Now, kicking it off, the Uganda Revenue Authority, together with the African Tax Administration Forum, ATAF, have started a three-day global forum, which is a joint workshop with over 32 African countries to tackle challenges of cross-border mobility for financial assets that will allow non-compliant taxpayers to avoid paying taxes in their countries of residence. More in this report.
With a tax to GDP ratio of approximately 16%, many African countries have a significant gap to fill in order to raise the revenue needed to finance their development goals and promote economic growth. A low tax to GDP ratio can limit the ability of governments to invest in physical infrastructure, social services, and other priorities, which makes the countries more vulnerable to external shocks.
Average tax to GDP ratio for the whole of Africa continent is about 16%. And yet research has shown that there is no country that can develop itself when we are collecting below 18 to 20% of our GDPs. Therefore, the time is now for the African continent to rise, for the tax administration forums to rise, and ensure that we collect at least 20% of our GDP in tax. That way we will equip our governments with capacity to develop our nations and to take our citizens into a space of self-sufficiency, of economic liberation, and of developing their own homes and well-being.
The increasing tax revenues will require a concentrated effort to improve tax administration, enhance tax compliancy, and broaden the tax base. This involves a range of measures, such as strengthening tax collection systems, reducing tax evasions and avoidance, improving taxpayer education and awareness, and implementing policies to promote economic growth and job creation.
Build the capacities of the African tax administrations in the areas of audit, in the transfer pricing, and these are normally the areas where most of the taxes are lost. So that's what we have been doing, and for example, since 2016, ATAF has been able to assist African tax administrations to assess over $3 billion, and about 1.3 billion has already been recovered in areas of audit and area of the transfer pricing. We have also built about 22 exchange information units in some of the African countries, because without the exchange information unit in a tax administrations, you cannot exchange information, or even if you do it, you don't do it the way it's supposed to be done.
The forum will focus on how Uganda can incorporate international tax rules, information exchange mechanisms, and strategies for identifying and monitoring high-risk taxpayers. By working together, tax authorities can develop more effective approaches to combating cross-border evasions and promoting compliance with tax obligations.
The assessment is made whenever a tax is identified by a tax authority. It has to be recovered, including when the taxpayer has moved away or has moved its asset in a foreign country. This is the objective of cross-border assistance in tax collection. It is a new area of work. The Global Forum since 2009 has been promoting the use of exchange of information.
The joint workshop is an opportunity for tax officials from different countries to share their experiences and strategies for addressing cross-border tax evasion and avoidance, to identify areas for collaboration and cooperation in this area. Martha Nimsima, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now let's talk matters Uganda's public debt. The civil society budget advocacy officials have tasked government to reduce on the unnecessary expenditures and then turn their guns to the servicing of the public debt before it hits 53%. According to CSBAC, the 200 billion shillings allocated for servicing and of course the public debt in the next financial year is just peanut, and more money is needed. We have more in this report.
The CSBAC officials who had appeared before the Committee of Finance to present their position on the Development Plan Implementation Programme informed legislators that while government has tried to cut on expenditures for the financial year 2022-2023, it's not enough and more budget cuts are required in order to service the public debt, which has surpassed the 50% IMF ceiling.
Our debt is not sustainable because we have contracted and we are still contracting more debt. And if we don't have a reflection as a country, because there are ways that we need to do. One, cut on expenditures, because even what the Honourable Member was saying, we are not going to realize the set targets that URA has been given. So that means cutting expenditures, government expenditures is one of the key issues.
According to CSBAC, pressure has been put on the domestic revenue to finance the domestic debt liabilities at the expense of other priority budgetary items, which is costing the country. They have also advised that the 200 billion shillings to service the public debt allocated for the next financial year is very little and that government needs to reconsider the figure.
The domestic revenue to finance. Now, such we have already breached. We have a threshold of 12.5, but if you look at the current status, we have already reached 24%. You also look at external debt service to exports, inclusive of goods and services, and also external debt to domestic revenue and external debt service to domestic revenue. Now, these benchmarks are critical, but in most spaces where we interface, the only word you hear that comes from government, debt to GDP. And we are also now so comfortable, and when we say we have already crossed the 50% threshold, but we are still comfortable and we say our debt is sustained.
Ribanken says that government has not invested much in monitoring the tax flows like the budget monitoring and accountability unit, which is doing a very tremendous job in monitoring projects and establishing value for money, but because they lack capacity to extensively monitor many government projects. Though the legislators have opposed it, saying that the country has many monitoring units whose budget is well stated.
Again, there are many. There's even a ministry within OPM that does again that monitoring. Even in the office of the president, they do monitoring. But our call was, if you look at the budget monitoring and accountability unit, which is in the Ministry of Finance, they have just at a staff ceiling, the current staff level is 40, and yet this unit, the kind of work they do and the reports that have been generating in regards to performance and monitoring of these projects, it's really something that we should commend them.
They should not run away from doing what they're supposed to be doing. Moreover, we have even given them money to improve on their tax administration, electronic systems. So when more is given in terms of improving the tax administration, and their mandate is collecting revenue, which is in the form of taxes.
The legislators have also faulted government over the continuous borrowing that has put this country in so many debts.
You see, if Ministry of Finance would stick to the Appropriation Act as per what Parliament has allocated, I think the accounting officers would have less problems.
As we speak now, where are we? We are hovering over 50 trillion point something. We might end up on 52, 53. Even if we end up on 50 or 51, again, it will be bastardized by another supplementary in the middle there. So the indiscipline in government is completely unacceptable.
The country's public debt has hit 86.8 trillion shillings as of June 2022. The budget for the financial year 2023-2024 is at 49.9 trillion shillings, and with the supplementary budget of up to 28 trillion shillings that government has presented before the budget committee, the budget might go up to 53 trillion shillings. Samlanifa, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now, the Lango sub-region is just one of the many that rely on agriculture, and still the country is a grain hub in there. And government, together with the Goody Leisure Farm, a social enterprise, is preparing a transformational outreach to enhance investment and commercial production. Naame Mutumba has more details regarding the transitioned Lango region for investment.
According to the State of Population Uganda Report 2022, Uganda's demographic trend shows that more than 77% of the population is youth, posing a challenge to unemployment and food security due to their negative attitude towards agriculture. The growing world population, as projected, presents an opportunity that the youth can harness in agriculture in terms of linking the youth to the various value chains, financial opportunities, and markets. The Lango region offers actors in the private sector and the strategies required to profitably and competitively exploit it in the service of its people and the nation as a whole.
A number of other youth and the community through what we call the skill fair, and they run weekly trainings in the community. So the spotlight is an opportunity for us to show what the young people are already doing in the region, but also to garner other people out there to come and seize the opportunities within the region.
And it's just an important trade route and trade partner for Uganda and the East African region. Our strategic location in the center of Uganda, if utilized well, can help Uganda achieve its development strategy by 2030. That is why us, me, and other leaders in the region are keen on promoting businesses and investment in the north. We are using this as a tool for improving the livelihoods of our people, especially the youth, in a sustainable manner, and for positioning Uganda as a central player in East Africa and indeed the continent's economic growth and stability.
Government of Uganda in the initial stages of the NDP3 formulation, and one of the proposed strategic objectives is to increase value addition, production and productivity along the agriculture value chain. With all this investment opportunity in the agriculture sector, Goody Leisure Farm, with support from government, are to conduct a Lango Region Business Symposium to showcase the profits gained in value addition when it comes to agriculture, with the aim of attracting young people into the sector.
There are over 100 commercial tree planters in the region. Lango has a number of oil mills supported by the local people who are doing the farming of the crops that are required for this oil. Lango is also well known for supplying fish. All of us who love our Nile perch, we know that majority of the Nile perch actually comes from Lango region. And we know that Nile perch contributes a lot in our export earnings. These are all opportunities that are not yet tapped to the fullest.
Lango sub-region is predominantly based on agriculture. Majorly, they do crop farming, and these crops basically are for subsistence kind of food. They are maize, cassava, we have sunflower, soybean, then for annual crops, we do cotton and some tobacco in some parts of Lango. Lango basically deals with agro-processing.
Uganda's national poverty rate has fallen by more than half over the last 3 decades, from 56% in the financial year 1990-1993 to 20.3% in the financial year 2020-2022, owing primarily to increase agricultural income. The Lango Spotlight will identify agricultural investment opportunities in the region. Naomi Mtumba, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
And right now, let's talk rural financial inclusion advancement, as the rural development through agent banking in Acholi and the Lango sub-regions in northern Uganda is a crucial tool in promoting financial inclusion and driving economic growth in the region. However, a number of bottlenecks is affecting the process. This and more with Bronia Katusime.
In northern Uganda, the Acholi and Lango sub-regions have endured decades of civil instability, which has had a considerable negative influence on the region's economic development. Despite government attempts to improve infrastructures and service delivery in rural communities, financial institutions still face challenges when it comes to providing services. The obstacles include cyber fraud, banks that do not upgrade their systems, and security issues with insurance.
Being far from us, we have the liquidation and then float purchase. So if the banks are far from you, doing this transaction is a problem. You very well know that if you want to serve a customer, for example, if someone comes to withdraw and you don't have cash but you have float, you need again to go to the main bank to go and get cash. That is a liquidation. So it is a big challenge. I don't know how best other banks will do that so that we close that gap of float liquidation.
In a plea to boost financial inclusion in the Acholi and Lango sub-regions, a number of financial institutions have started offering agent banking services. For instance, Centenary Bank collaborated with neighborhood-based groups to offer banking services to the community.
What we commit to do is to go away and work on them and make sure that we can actually have a much smoother, a much more seamless customer and agent experience. I think you will appreciate that agent banking was launched fully in 2018, so it's only just about 5 years old. But if you look at the impact that has been achieved across the board, it is significant.
To widen their coverage, the financial institutions are collaborating with community-based organizations by spending money on technology. Initiatives for financial education are also being launched to raise financial literacy in these rural areas.
Recently, the MDI Act was passed. It will allow some of those institutions that tier to also participate in agent banking. And all this expands the reach of financial service providers to the rural population.
Despite all these obstacles, the different players are working together to overcome them to ensure that agent banking remains the main driver of rural development in Uganda. According to Emmanuel Muhanguzi, Assistant Commissioner Local Economic Development, creating governance structures through local government will help in reducing some of these challenges.
One of the things that for us to achieve that, we do is to work with everybody, banks, private sector in different modes, to enhance the issue of financial inclusion, because many of our rural people have really, lived behind. Yet the economy requires that we have everybody on board. So when we work on infrastructure, when we provide governance, when there is security in our local areas, in our local governments that govern these areas, banks, agents of this nature have a better environment to operate, brings on our people on board, and the economy is improved in that mode.
Agent banking has made it possible for small companies and farmers to readily acquire credit, save money, and conduct transactions, which has increased economic activity, improved livelihoods, and decreased poverty. Bronia Katsime, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now let's head to the Mpondwe border, as the Mpondwe business community have reiterated the need to have their fish market shifted back from the Congo border and called upon government to speed up the process, citing massive unemployment after the shift of the market to the DRC. We have more in this report.
Since the COVID-19 pandemic, business at Mpondwe has never come to normal, especially those dealing in fish. The traders at Mpondwe border request government to speed up their process of bringing back the fish market to the Democratic Republic of Congo, which they say has affected them economically. The youth and women who used to work in this market have remained jobless since the invasion of the COVID-19 pandemic, when the fish market shifted to the DRC. The traders say that the market was shifted to the Democratic Republic of Congo. Most women and youth who used to offload the fish have remained with no jobs.
One of the biggest challenges we are facing, especially after COVID-19, is our fish market. Yes, the government has injected a lot of money in that market, but the market has remained docile because the market was taken to Congo. The Congolese have taken advantage, and our people who used to benefit directly from this market, especially the transporters, the loaders and offloaders, The mothers who used to cook food in the market have all lost their jobs. Yes, the incentives we are talking about is putting low tax rates to the traders such that they are not scared away by bringing their fish here in Uganda. Southern Sudanese, the Kenyans and Tanzanians want to do business here in Uganda, but because our taxes are very high, they end up in Congo where taxes are relatively low.
According to the Mayor Mpondwe Rubiriha Town Council Sylvester Mapozi, the government of Uganda invested billions of shillings in constructing a one-stop border post and market, but no serious business has come to the facility since its construction.
The fish is not back into this market. We may have these structures not utilized because, as I say, even right now, some of the stalls have no people in those in the stalls in use because some used them for the fish and related items.
The State Minister for ICT and National Guidance, Godfrey Kabyanga, called upon government to expedite the process of transferring the market back to the border from Congo so that the traders may resume normal business.
We have sorted out is the issue of the immigration department. Now people can go, they are not going to pay any money. However, we still have a short radius because not every Ugandan is allowed to do what? To cross free. At least you must be from the border, Ukonjo West. The rest who come from far are not, they can't benefit from that gesture.
In response to the traders of Mpondwe border, the minister assured traders that government will do its best to enable resumption of business while reducing the high taxes levied on the goods at the border.
On the issue of taxes, you are the right person because you have been a speaker for many years and all these laws, you are the one who put them in place.
In March 2018, the government of Uganda secured a loan of $14 million to facilitate cross-border trade between Uganda and DR Congo. In so doing, the Ministry of Trade, through the Ministry of Works, constructed Mpondwe border post and market. However, COVID-19 disrupted business, resulting into relocation of the market to DR Congo, something that caused massive unemployment to the border post residents, and now they call for reinstatement for their market. Samuel Chirumunda, Masika Tsime for Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Stick around with that though, as more Business Today returns after the break.